For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of Day 5 of USC Spring Camp. And today's practice was a lively practice, full pads, full contact. There's actual tackling happening at practice. I thought it was a pretty energetic, good practice from the Trojans. During the red zone portion, the last half of practice, it kind of reminded me of a fall camp practice where you knew that games were coming at some point. So I think that's a positive sign that it's spring and it has that feel to it.
Yeah, I thought there were a lot of positive signs. I think the fact that they're doing as much goal line and red zone stuff, I mean, they were 99th in the nation in the red zone, and I think it really helps to, practice it and just do it over and over and over again, get all the quarterbacks a chance to do it, to see if you can run it in there. Didn't have, Vi Malapai and Stephen Carr. We hear that both were out sick. But Marquise Stepp, I think, is showing you that, for a big kid, he can run and cut. And he's getting an opportunity. All three quarterbacks got an opportunity, to do some things. The receivers, I know, you watch them line up, say, at goal line, 3-4 yard line, whatever. And they'll come out with a double wide to the side where we're standing. And you have Devin Williams at 6'5", wide, and then in the slot, still wide, is 6'6" Josh Fallow. And you just think, who's going to be able to line up? What kind of DBs are going to be able to line up? And then as they run that play, JT Daniels hits Amon-Ra on the other side on an easy fade. I'm just thinking, that's a difficult matchup. If you're lining up against that team on the goal line, you're thinking, man, this is who's got DBs to match up with those two guys on the one side? And then you got Amon-Ra just, taking advantage on the other. Then Tyler Vaughn's made a catch today that was just throwing the ball, JT through a couple of defenders and just jumping out of the gym. And I thought it was good. If I had to say one thing you would have liked to have seen is the offensive line being able to handle a little bit more of the pressure they're getting from the defensive line. Defensive line is coming at them. Jay Tufele down to 305, and he is just flying off the ball. And the big star, I think, today was Connor Murphy. He's up to 268 pounds. He's played 3 different positions this spring. And, Coach K is raving about him. Made a big play, deflection, knocked it was the play of the day to see who won the offense or defense, and he got up in the air and knocked down a JT Daniels pass to give the defense a win. But he's like 13 pounds heavier than he was last year, and according to Coach K, just much more serious about things, and he looks like he really feels like he's going to play, and that'd be kind of neat for people who have always thought that Connor Murphy has that kind of potential. Looks like he might be able to live up to it today. But we got to see people really go after one another, and they had fun doing it. Yeah. I mean, that was a fun practice, and you want to see kids when they put the pads on. Come out there with kind of a buzz and a kind of an excitement and just a noise level that you can just tell. I guess it was Coach Burns was saying, they're just happy to be here. This is fun. They're having fun. He said, it shouldn't be up to me to be yelling at them from the sidelines to get them, get their energy up and all that. He said, I can't be there in the games. They got to do it. Yeah. And he said, they're doing it. He said, these kids look like they're really having fun. I don't know we would have said that much last year, that they look like they're really having fun.
Agreed. And to your point, talking to Chad K, the defensive line coach, he said that other coaches told him that they haven't seen the defensive line group play with such energy and competitiveness as they did previously. But you mentioned the weight issue. That's something that really stuck out to Chad K when he first came to USC. He said that was the first thing he told defensive linemen Jay Tufele, Marlon Tuipulotu, and Brandon Peely. They got to drop the weight because he said those guys are strong. They just need to get quicker, have a quick twitch. And so those guys it's a process in spring still. Going down on their weight. Some of those guys are at their goal weight, but I thought it was interesting how he talked about that.
Yeah, I think it really made a difference with Jay Tufele, who's down to 305, and probably really good weight for him. Yeah. But his ability to get off the ball is just amazing, and that's great to see the offensive line have to handle that play after play after play. And they, they do a pretty good job protecting the quarterback. I think there were a couple of sacks today, but ball's coming out quick, and it's got to come out quick. And I think we actually saw 2 low snaps today, and I think that's the first time we've seen any. So you could tell full pads, they're coming, they're looking at you. That was so I think that's a good learning lesson, for the offense, and when they're having to deal with that kind of pressure.
Yeah, because I was going to say, Helton said on Tuesday that the goal of this spring is to get the defense quicker. Tuesday they released the Hounds. They got more pressure. How do you think that this offense is evolving to handle that pressure so far this week?
Well, I mean, I think all 3 of the quarterbacks, and Keaton Slovis is still out with some undisclosed situation, but he's out there, without pads. But I think all of them are able to make the throws. JT can make the toughest throws, and Jack Sears and Matt have a little more escapability. But I think they're having to solve problems in the middle of plays. They're having to make throws, and somebody will bat it down if you don't get the right throwing lane and all that. I just think it looked more like a game. It looked more like and what they're doing more, probably a half an hour more of individual work, and what you're seeing is the individual work, they're doing it at speed. I mean, maybe not Clemson speed yet, but they're really trying to do it as fast as they can do it, and as much like game situation, and then that carries over, I think, to the 11 on 11, the full team stuff, and there was contact today. I mean, there were some big hits. I think EA had one, Connor had one, Nick Figueroa had one.
Marlon Tricolo too.
Marlon did, yeah. There were, so I think that was, we didn't see much of that last year. It just didn't seem to happen, and so I think that's just the back and forth with the offense, knowing that defense is really coming after you. They're not going to let you make plays. They're going to make you have to make plays, I think, is what we're seeing.
Yeah. It was a defensive day today, so we talked to defensive players and coaches. We already mentioned Chad K. I thought that was a pretty interesting interview. But any other nuggets from your interviews from today?
Not so much for an interview, other than we wanted to talk to Ben Griffiths, the 27-year-old Aussie Rules punter, because you can talk to special teams also, but he's still considered a freshman. I was trying to convince them that, hey, he's a retired professional football player. He should be able to talk for himself. And they said, well, he's still a freshman. Okay, so, but he's changes the look of this team. I mean, when he punts that thing, I think he hit 175 yards, from the 25 to the end zone. And he kicks them end over end a lot of times, and so you better catch it because it's going to bounce as well. He's not just kicking that, that kind of spiral that turns over like you see most, American punters. He kicks it a little different, and it makes a different sound. When he kicks it, there's a thud. I still remember covering baseball and the great confrontation in Chicago when Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa were both chasing the home run record, and that night they came in on Friday night, Cardinals against the Cubs, and they had batting practice, and the sounds that were being made from the ball being hit by those 2 guys, God knows what it was that was helping them hit the ball that hard, but there you can tell a lot about sports by the sound, and the sound when he hits the football, it's just different. And he's a weapon, and he's going to change. At first I wasn't, crazy about special teams in the spring. I think it's really worthwhile doing because I think his punting is absolutely going to be a weapon, and can't wait to talk to him. They've also decided, because of his, Aussie Rules background, his size, 6'5" at least, 6'6" maybe, and his hands, if you ever watch his highlights in Aussie Rules football, he's now the #1 holder too. Now here's the kid's never played an American football game. He's the #1 holder, and he looks really confident doing it. So there are a lot of some fun things like that we're hoping we get a chance to, and I'm sure you would like your first interview with Ben Griffiths. That should be really an interesting, what is it like to come over here and play college football, having been an Aussie Rules football guy. That'd be it'd be fun to find that out. But he looks like the real deal. I mean, he's got that kind of presence that, say, the Utah kickers have, with those Australian kickers. And just, that's a plus. I mean, there's some serious pluses, that are going on here. They got long way to go. The offensive line's got to really work at it. We've got to see Stephen Carr and Vi Malapai back and all of that. But this is a team that can give you some tough matchups, especially, now that if you're playing 4 wide receivers and Josh Fallow, man, that's how many guys that you got to defend. That got a 6'4" Pittman, a 6'5" Williams, a 6'6" Fallow who could all run, and you got Tyler Vaughns who can jump, and then you got Amon-Ra doing what Amon-Ra does. That's a lot of matchup problems. Yeah. That's so you see that enough, you think, this has got some possibilities.
Yeah, and of course, spring is the time for optimism. I guess to play devil's advocate, this team has been a team that in past seasons have practiced well, and then it just doesn't show up in games.
Except for last spring.
Yeah. Except for last spring. But what makes you think that this could be different this year for those who are less optimistic about this team?
Well, I think Graham Harrell's approach with the idea that, we're going to do today was a repeat of day 2 of week 1 of the offense, that they basically, do it in thirds. And yesterday, Tuesday was day 1 repeated. Today was day 2 repeated. Saturday will be day 3 repeated. And it's just the idea that we're just going to keep doing these things over and over and over again until we have them absolutely perfect. That's just completely pretty much opposite what the theory has been before now. And if you've got enough good players and they really do these things perfectly, I like the idea that the focus is going to be on us and what do we do. We're not going to be counterpunchers and trying to say, well, here's what they do, so we're going to try to do. No, here's what we do. Can you stop us from doing what we do? Because we're going to do it really well. That's what I think the best teams do. So that change of focus, I think, is the thing that would give you optimism, because it's a change of focus with talent. If you didn't have the talent, you just say, well, I hope we can, get by, like Texas did last year, where, they had all kinds of injuries and they don't have anywhere near the talent USC, has. And Graham, gets them, 9 wins, I guess. And I think, there's a reason to be optimistic. This is going to be, this team has the potential to be a difficult matchup. And I think we've always felt that the defense, if they play aggressively and they really know what they're doing and they keep it simple enough to get their talent on the field, that they can give you some problems if they don't have any real rash of injuries in the secondary, and that they're going to go with their talent. I mean, that's why they're playing 4 down, because they feel like they've got enough talent up front to get those guys in the game. And they just got to play fast and come after you. And so I think the theory of what they're trying to do on both sides of the ball is good. And then special teams, getting a guy like Ben Griffiths changes things. So I think there's a reason to be optimistic. I mean, again, we all went through last year. We've gone through some really tough times in all the, previous 3 years. But I think there's reason to have a sense of, this team could make some real, progress.
Mm-hmm. As far as injury updates go, Keaton Slovis, Solomon Tuialapupu, and Caleb Tremblay did not dress out today, as Dan mentioned. Stephen Carr and Vi Malapai were not at practice for another practice, so that's two practices for Carr and Vi, and then Keaton Slovis has not been dressed out for 2 practices. Caleb Tremblay hasn't really gotten a full go so far this spring. But on a positive injury update, Max Williams, the early enrollee DB, did progress to doing individual drills today. That was the first time he's been able to do that this spring. He looked pretty good. Moved around well. He did have a rehab session on the side of the field, and Clancy Pendergast, the defensive coordinator, actually came over to watch him for a little bit. So those are some updates as far as injuries go, but we didn't get to talk to Helton today, only on Saturdays. But going forward, full pads today. We expected probably full pads for Saturday. What are you expecting now for the scrimmage-like emphasis for Saturday's practice?
Yeah, and I think you're allowed 2 full pads a week of the 3, and you're allowed 3 kind of full scrimmages where you basically the whole time you're tackling and all of that. So this will be the first one of those Saturday. Oh, one other guy, and I had missed him earlier. One other guy, Clayton Bradley, also
Yeah, he's been out for a bit.
wasn't in pads, but and I get Bernard Shermer came back the other day, so that's always good to get another offensive lineman that's ready to go. But every once in a while you realize, like when they have three of the four defensive backs have yellow jerseys on, and the ball goes up, and it looks like three quarterbacks are going for it. And Isaiah Palomalo and Talanoa Havanga and Greg Johnson are all still in yellow. But they're incorporating them into the action. They just have to pull up when it gets to full contact.
Yeah.
They just can't go through the tackle, or they can't go through the bat down or the deflection or whatever. But I think they're doing a pretty good job of being sensible and being smart, and yet not having these guys miss completely.
Yeah. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for Thursday's practice. Be sure to stay tuned for Saturday's report. But that's going to wrap it up for Dan Weber. I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.